In this video, we will talk about how to create a KML file from this MicroStation file. Once you have the coordinate system applied to the file, like what we have here, if we come up to our geographic tools, there's an option right here that says Export Google Earth File. We'll select it. Now you determine where you want to place it at. For this example, I will just go ahead and save it inside of ProjectWise. One note with this though is Google Earth doesn't recognize ProjectWise as a storage location, but just to kind of show this example, we'll just store it inside of the project, which is inside of ProjectWise for this example. But you may want to store it outside of ProjectWise for whatever reason. So I'll just go ahead and click on Save. And now it will go through the process of creating the KML file and then also opening up Google Earth, and hopefully it'll land correctly in the correct location. And this process may take a little bit of time depending on how big your file is in order to create that KML file. And then once it's finished, you'll have that geometry that's from that MicroStation file built into a KML file. That way you can see it inside of Google Earth. Now currently it's putting some styles or some place markers inside of here, which that's being looked at right now, and hopefully that will get removed from the next version. But this at least gives you an idea of how the tool works. So if I scroll over to this side here, I can actually turn off or turn on some of my reference files that are attached to here. Let's say I don't want to turn on the terrain. So if I click on it, it'll actually turn off that particular file. Same thing for my utilities. Let's say I want to turn that off. Or if I want to turn off my corridors, I can turn that off. So you can kind of control what you want to see over here to the side, depending on what files that you want to see, and also the levels. So you can expand this out and turn off and on levels that were associated to that particular reference file. And of course, if you zoom into it, you'll see that it's all landing basically in the right spot. That's the option of creating a KML file from the MicroStation file that's out there. Let me go ahead and close this down, and I will discard it for this example. The other thing that I'd like to show is not the export to Google Earth file, which that's pretty well basic on it, but there's another option right here that says Google Earth settings. And if you click on it, these are going to give you all the settings of how it's going to create that KML file. So you may want to look at this and determine which settings that you want depending on what type of file it is. For like right here, it says convert custom line styles. It'll actually convert those and put them inside the file. Same thing for your raster images. If you want to include rasters to the KMZ file, that's just things that you want to look at before you actually go through there and create the KML file. Same thing if it was a 3D file, you can come in here and actually change some of the options if it was a 3D file, whether you want it to be relative to ground, or you can actually flatten it to the actual terrain that's in there inside of Google Earth. So these are just some options that you may want to look at whenever you're creating that KML file. And if you create the incorrect one, or if it doesn't look quite correct, you can always delete the KML file, go back into these Google Earth settings and change a few things, and then create the KML file again. That's what the Google Earth settings will do with that. So those are the tools of creating a KML file from the MicroStation file. Number one, it just has to have the correct coordinate system applied. And then number two, look at your Google Earth settings to make sure it produces the KML file the way you want it.